Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. Alright guys, so what we're going to cover on this episode of the Bullet Points on this Saturday morning is a press release from Brady.org. Now, Brady.org, if you're not familiar, is one of the leading gun control groups in the United States. The reason that we're hitting this press release is because they're addressing the New York ruling on the temporary restraining order that Sotheby gave to the concealed carry laws that Kathy Hochul and the legislature there put into place. Dramatically unconstitutional, well, they have been put on a hold. Brady.org has to come out with some sort of response, and I want to show you what they're showing their supporters and the outright gaslighting that is completely false, and we're going to refute that right now. Everything will be linked in the description box below, so you can follow along if you'd like. I'm going to say a quick word from our sponsor, Kamikoto Knives, and then we are going to dive into this, and I cannot wait to walk through this with you guys and hear what you think in the comments field below. Now, the sponsor for this episode of Freedom is Kamikoto Knives. Now, of course, knives are a little outside of our realm, but every single 2A advocate needs to fuel their body, and to do that, you need the right tool in the kitchen, which is why I want to show you guys these things. These Kamikoto knives are legit. Right out of the box, check out not only the exquisite design and the nature, but look at the balance on that knife. I got a few things to tell you about them. I can't wait to hear what you guys think, and we're going to hit it in 1 second. The knives are made with a high-quality Japanese steel using traditional techniques. Each knife is individually inspected and comes with a lifetime guarantee. The knives come in a heavy-duty ash wood box, which makes them a great present. The knives are used by Michelin star chefs all over the world, so why shouldn't they fuel your freedom in your kitchen? Now, Kamikoto has several special offers going on right now and is offering my viewers an extra $50 off on any purchase with the discount code Langley. On top of their special offers, go to kamikoto.com/Langley to get your knife set and help support our channel. Alright, so as I mentioned in the introduction, we're going to dive into this piece from the Brady.org. This is something they're actually sending their supporters. I need to show you this because if you've watched these videos for 1 out of the last 7 per week, you are going to know a lot more than this is actually alluding to, because this is crucial. This is gaslighting of the highest order. Let's get it. Let the refuting begin. Brady condemns dangerous court decision blocking New York safety law. Okay. The decision in Antoniuk versus Hochul is yet another dangerous effect of the U.S. Supreme Court's reckless ruling favoring the NRA's guns everywhere agenda. Okay, that is packed with so much propaganda. They're actually blaming the Bruen decision, then linking that back to the NRA, even though this is a completely separate case, and this is a response to the actual actions of New York. Can't say that, just got a hit on the enemy here, but let's keep going. I got all of it broken down into segments. Washington, D.C., October 6, 2022. Gun violence prevention group Brady is condemning a federal court decision issued today that threatens to invalidate much of New York State's recently enacted law on the carrying of guns in public. Notice how they didn't say anything about the unconstitutionality of those laws. They just said, we don't like that it's not in place. They didn't have any care about the constitutionality or unconstitutionality. It was all about what I want, what I feel. Let's continue, because that's going to be a theme across the board, and the overt gaslighting. Check this out. The decision in Antoniuk versus Hochul is an unfortunate continuation of the repercussions from the U.S. Supreme Court's June 2023 decision. In New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, Inc. v. Bruen, which made it harder for governments to restrict the carrying of firearms in public. In response to Bruen, the New York legislature passed and Governor Kathy Hochul signed new gun violence prevention measures designed to keep communities safe and comply with the Supreme Court's decision. Didn't comply at all. That's the whole point. That's why there's an injunction, because they took it and they ran with it and they went in the opposition, direct face of the Supreme Court's decision. We'll get to that in a second. The gun safety law prohibits the carrying of firearms in sensitive places like schools, government buildings, playgrounds, hospitals, and Times Square. Notice how they hit on all the ones that are established historical precedent that are gun control zones except Times Square. Interesting how they didn't mention that it was all businesses unless they said it was perfectly okay. They didn't mention any of the overreaching aspects of the social media background checks. They didn't mention any of the stuff around, good moral character, which is a subjective decision by the state, which is the majority of the things that were struck down. No. They only hit on schools, government buildings, playgrounds, hospitals, and Times Square. Again, things that were in the Bruen decision that said could be considered a sensitive place based on history and tradition, with the exception of Times Square. That was a new one they threw in there because they wanted to. This is incredibly important to understand and get behind what they're doing. They're lying through omission and not saying some very important parts of this decision, and they're only hitting on the things that Bruen actually supported in the actual decision, all the while blaming Bruen and supporting the New York carry laws. It's ripe. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's keep going because there's more. But today, U.S. District Judge Glenn T. Sotheby ruled that even the most modest, common sense gun safety laws went too far, and he imposed a temporary restraining order on parts of the law, which we mentioned a second ago, but they did not mention in this release. But his dangerous order won't go into effect for at least 3 days, pending an emergency appeal by the state to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. I want to hit that first part again. Even the most modest, common sense gun safety laws went too far. Notice how they're completely vague? They didn't mention anything about a subjective good moral character. They didn't mention anything about social background checks. They didn't mention anything about the fact that they added sensitive places to the entire state of New York, which was explicitly said in the decision by Clarence Thomas. You can't make the whole island of Manhattan a sensitive place. Only those that have history, text, and tradition. Didn't mention any of those things. This is what we're fighting. These people are absolutely driven by ideology, not by constitutionality. Let's keep going. Because notice, the one big thing absent here is constitutionality arguments. It's all about emotion and common sense. Let's keep going. This is what the president of Brady said. New Yorkers, like all Americans, do not want their supermarkets, public squares, and child care centers turned into bullet-riddled crime scenes. After the Bruen decision, New York's leaders delivered what 79% of their citizens say they want: a life-saving gun violence prevention law aimed at common-sense licensing requirements and keeping guns out of sensitive places. We strongly object to Judge Sotheby's dangerous interpretation of the Constitution and New Yorkers' ability to protect themselves from the reality of gun violence in public places in America. It hurts. Notice how they said supermarkets, public squares, and child care centers. Again, they're hitting on previously established sensitive places. Then they're adding in a few more, they're very vague, like public squares. Let's keep going. And after all, if 79% of the population wants all constitutionality gone, why wouldn't we do it? This is the reason our system exists the way that it is. Let's keep going. Got one more thing. Brady counsel Shira Feldman, quote, "This court's reading of Bruen is extreme and inconsistent with the text of the Supreme Court's opinion. The Bruen decision provided examples of sensitive places, but did not limit the places considered sensitive to those examples. It absolutely did. Judge Sotheby's interpretation of what is required for a historical analog of sensitive place protection ignores modern reality in a way that the Bruen opinion does not require. Incorrect. Blatantly incorrect. The entire Bruen decision was based on history, text, and tradition. It was history. It was tradition. There had nothing to do with modern realities, as the counsel is saying. This is the person responsible for the legal affairs for Brady. So that's gaslighting. It had nothing to do with modernality. Then the other thing, extreme and inconsistent with the text of the Supreme Court's opinion. It's not supreme, and it's not inconsistent, and it's not crazy with the Supreme Court's opinion, because it literally goes into sensitive places are historically and traditionally sensitive places. You can't make the whole island of Manhattan a sensitive place. Those were his exact words. So you tell me how that is inconsistent with the Bruen decision. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments field below, and I will see you in the next episode. I'm Braden. See you later.